Here we go. We're with Kevin, more tech from UTEC IT, and this is going to be a podcast that only Andy Slowotsky could dream about. He could never reach this pinnacle. He could only dream about doing something like this. And by that, I mean we are back with Mike Stramaglio, and that's a guest that Andy could never get.
Mike, welcome.
Oh my God! Let's get off to the right start here. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Let's irritate Andy, but you're probably right, Andy. Hi guys.
Yeah, who else
How are
would?
you?
Yeah. So, well, we had a entertaining podcast the previous week with you, Mike, and it was a lot of fun. We had some good laughs at other people's expenses. So we said, hey, let's carry it forward again. Let's do one more.
Yep, we're now a Murata dealer, and
We've officially been canceled, yes, so we're still looking for a new manufacturer partner.
Yeah, based on the strength of that last podcast, I'm sure you're looking for another alternative vendor.
Yeah, who knew Merzic didn't have a sense of humor?
oh boy.
Well, it's
All
good
right.
to see you guys again.
Yeah, we're gonna get realigned here. Mike, welcome. I mean, it's fantastic to have you on our show today.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. It's an honor to be here. You guys are fun. I'm looking forward to it. So thanks, guys.
You're welcome. Hey, so Mike, I wanted to ask this just to get things started off because everybody kind of knows you as you're a fantastic ambassador to the industry. Stellar blue chip career. Executive levels at the highest level. But I think I want people to know about the Stramaglio that carried the bag and knocked on the doors and actually made things happen at the street level. Talk to us about when you used to carry a bag and you had a quota and you had a sales manager breathing down your neck.
Yeah, well, that was clearly a long time ago, but
What?
yeah, I'd say when I was carrying a bag, it was probably 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So, I had a fantastic time. So it's funny you should ask that question, take me back quick. But, when I graduated high school, I was on my way to, college and enrolled and everything. And I got wrapped up. Of course, that was the Vietnam era. And everyone was getting drafted, and then they moved from the draft to a lottery. And of course, that's the only lottery I've won in my entire life. In fact, I think it's the only thing I've ever won since. So lucky me, right?
Right, yeah.
So I actually remember we were in the student union with a bunch of my friends, and we sneaked in a couple of six packs to just have a couple beers and see what we were going to be doing.
You need vitamin water when you're studying and.
Yeah, it's sort of like Kevin's water, So anyway, long story
Out on
short,
the ranch.
I come walking in with the beer. The guys are sitting there, and my one buddy says, "Hey, better drink quick because I think you just got called." And sure enough, my number was right there. And so from there, of course, I went to boot camp and all. But back, full turn when I got out of the Navy active duty. I had a buddy that was selling copy machines in Chicago, where I grew up. And he came up to me and he said, "Hey, what are you going to be doing?" I said, "Well, I'm going to go to school. I got to figure out how to make some money."
Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, I came across this company and they're selling big cameras." Is what he said, because nobody at that point Xerox wasn't a thing, right?
Right.
So anyway, I went on an interview with them, and they had these psychological battery tests and all of that. And apparently I didn't do very well. So I had a little bit of an attitude problem, I guess, back then. And anyway, so I got recruited by 3M. I went and interviewed with them.
Okay.
And here's some names for you: AB Dick, SCM.
Right.
So I did them all. And 3M came back and said, "Hey, we got an opening downtown Chicago. Would you like to take it?" And off I went. So I took that job. They sent me to Minneapolis for a couple of weeks for training, which in hindsight is probably one of the best 2 weeks I've ever spent in my life, because what did I know about copy machines? Anyway, so that's how I started. I came back to Chicago. I was running out of the Chicago branch downtown and making cold calls, doing my thing, and making money. Because back then, I mean, Jesus, I had no idea what I was doing, and I was making money.
So a lot of times, that first job or that first real successful run a person has, they develop some habits that carry them throughout their whole business life. Was that the case with you, or is there anything you'd share with us in that manner?
Yeah, well, yeah, the combination, I think, in a very condensed period of time of going from high school to Navy to corporate like that.
Mm-hmm.
There were some very interesting and wonderful, fact patterns that taught you stuff, right? So the discipline of the Navy was clearly important. With a kid who's basically 18, 19 years old, during a crazy period of time in the world. I mean, you had pretty much so many bad things going on. And so the discipline of the Navy was very important to me. And it actually centered me too when I got to the corporate world and I was going to training. Pretty much anything you learned in the Navy was highly regimented without much imagination. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
just had to do it and do it right. And then you leave that environment and you go into corporate training with 3M, where your ability to pull your personality out, use your imagination, so all the hard work, ethics, disciplines, they all went hand in hand. But the
Mm-hmm.
one thing about 3M, they stuck me in front of these role playing things. I hated it. The training was just intense. I hated being in front of people doing that. So that's fed me forever, because I'm never really comfortable getting on a stage, and they taught me basically from the beginning, how to deal with that. I know Kevin's laughing,
I was
but
gonna say, did somebody take Mike? He's not comfortable getting on a stage.
it's true though. Even throughout the years. I mean, some days, as you know, you're on your game and you suck it up and you kind of do what you do. But I've always felt if you weren't nervous, you didn't care.
Hmm.
So I'm always nervous, getting in front of 1,000 or 500 or 50 people.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too, Les, what did it teach me? It taught me the responsibility of managing my own company, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you had a territory, you had to work the territory, you had to buy a car, you had to have a Fernal
Right.
Washington cart, you had to have all the equipment, and you had to be, crazy enough to get up every morning and get out there and load that thing up and do 15 demos a week or whatever it was.
Right.
So yeah, I take that with me every day, you know,
That's
and you
awesome.
can, yeah, I've one thing that they taught me at 3M, and I don't know if it was just this teacher, but he said, look, number one, whatever you're going to do it really well and do it really quick,
Mm.
right? So don't waste time, just get at it, get after it, know where your strengths and weaknesses are, fix them, but do it quick.
Mm-hmm.
And he
Business
said,
loves speed.
yeah, and he said, and by the way, don't ever hire anyone that walks slow.
Mm. Right.
So that stuck.
That's awesome. So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, in the industry, you had a phenomenal career, and you reached the highest levels at multiple organizations. So, that 3M training. Now, if from history, right, that then became Harris 3M, right, and then I think it was Harris Lanier, and then
Yeah.
finally spun off to Lanier. Did you ever keep track of any of those people from the early days?
Oh, yeah. I mean, so many of those people actually have found their ways, into, newer, better things. I mean, Dominic Pontrelli, he and
Right.
I were connected way, way, way back. And now here he is, really one
He's
of
at ATS, right?
one of the great guys in the business. So yeah, I've kept in contact with Dusty Milner and,
Mm.
some of the old guys from the Lanier days. But
Well,
yeah,
Dominic hired in the 3M days, and
yes.
yeah, so he he'll tell that story of The having to do the demos, having to do the presentations and the quotes, and just working the numbers hard. And now he's got that great marketing company, focused in and around our industry and what have you. But now he started out, he was right in the street, like all of us have started.
Yep. Yep. And honestly, you were talking about the fact that, I've had a good career. I have had a wonderful career. I've been very, very blessed. Um, but I also don't kid myself. The timing was right. It was a wonderful opportunity to join the industry. You didn't, you could be adequate and grow. And
Uh,
I happen to have a really phenomenal group of people around me that taught me stuff that just was phenomenal. It helped me throughout my career. Very, very, very lucky.
Kevin talks about that a lot, having the right people, just getting the good people.
Yeah, we're still looking for him.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? Back in the day, I always wonder about this. Back in the day, it was actually easier and harder compared to today.
Hmm.
Yeah. What do you mean by that, Mike?
Well, back in the day, you didn't have to, you didn't, I probably shouldn't say this, but you didn't have all these rules and regulations. And so
Mm-hmm.
the good news is it was a
You
little
telling
more,
us you rolled back meters?
yeah,
You didn't roll back meters.
yeah. Well, but it's true, in the older days, you followed your instincts more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So your handshake was more important. Your relationships were handled differently. There was more mentoring, bonding, sharing, esprit de corps. Come on, let's go. Sell 50 machines, and
Right.
it was easier to manage. Right? I think a little bit easier to
Mm-hmm.
manage. Now
Yeah,
you fast forward.
you had to be dumb enough to do what they told you, right? And just decent enough to execute, right?
Yeah, I God's honest truth. I mean, you didn't know.
Hmm.
So, especially in the beginning, hey, go make 100, cold calls. Oh, okay. Well, now you get arrested. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Trespassing.
yeah. So that's why I say it was a phenomenal, fertile learning experience, right? Because you
Yeah.
could go make cold calls and you could talk to the security guard and you could do things that I think, are significantly more difficult from that perspective. Now, of course, you have software tools and you have all these other tools, that you can work like LinkedIn. But as far as the social side of it, where
Yeah.
you had to meet people and you had
Right.
to, you'd get thrown out in 5 minutes or you'd make a friend,
Right.
right?
Yeah. It's amazing
So,
how that has changed, especially like right now. We're in three different locations. We're having a meeting, but it's working for us. But a lot of initial sales meetings right now are done this way, and it's different. It really is. I don't
well,
know
it
that
is.
it's better or worse, but it's different.
Well, I think it's all good, right? I mean, everything evolves, everything
Hmm.
changes. New opportunities have to be developed, created, or somehow, invented.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, I think we're in really a wonderful place. The hard part of it, I think, is how do you manage this? And I mean, we as a royal we,
Hmm.
how does the industry manage it? How do people manage it? And we're going to have some serious ongoing learning experiences. You know,
But
look
that's
at
the vitality of the business, Mike.
well, it's the vitality of it, and the upside opportunities are enormous. But you have to be careful. Look at artificial intelligence, right?
Hmm.
Just look at that. That the next 10 years with artificial intelligence,
Right.
it's a tsunami, and there are moral equivalencies, and there's laws, and there's so many things that have to be dealt with, whether it's security issues or otherwise. But without it, you can't cure the things that need to be cured and
Right.
have to be cured. So I think you look at the old days to the new days. It's nice. Always people say, "Well, man, the old days were great." Well, they were, but these are the old days for somebody else right now.
Here. Yeah.
And
right, in
You
their
know,
future. So you were carrying a bag, and then how did you get you moved on from 3M, and then you start? Is that when you started breaking into the executive ranks?
yeah. So I left 3M. I was recruited by a gentleman from Minolta,
Mm-hmm.
back in the day, and they were setting up a sales training center in Rolling Meadows outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And Minolta was just starting to come on because they were now investing in their own brand and so on. And so somebody had recommended me, and I did the interview, and I joined corporate Minolta,
Yeah.
and they hired me to set up the entire training facility and program across the country. And yeah, so that's I went from up and down the street to where back in those days, you know how it was. If you were with an OEM, you arrived, right?
Yeah.
In style.
Like it's like
Yeah,
getting called up to the big leagues.
yeah, exactly. Went from the farm team to the bigs,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's how it started. And I had a wonderful, phenomenal, opportunity because I was training literally hundreds with a team, of course, great
Yeah.
team, hundreds of salespeople around the country, many of whom are now
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
grown up to, buy your own dealerships and so on.
Wasn't
So
that funny?
then,
You get into that sales management, you think you've arrived and it's going to be so great, and then you start thinking, shit, I'd rather just be back out selling. It was easier.
Well, Kevin, it was so funny because when I first went into corporate, but when you move from up and down the street, you're in large part it's all commission, right?
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So my brain was always, okay, well, you know what? I was single. Hey, I want to get a Corvette or I want to do this. So you just did the math. I need to sell two more a month,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
right? I need to sell two more copy machines a month and I can get that Corvette. And then you go to the corporate world and they give you a nice base salary, but your ability to say, well, I'm on a Corvette, so I'll go sell three more machines. Well, that wasn't your deal. That wasn't the way it
Right.
worked. you know, So that took a little bit of a learning experience, but then I got into the sales side at Minolta.
Yeah. And then from Minolta, you went to Rico.
I went from yes. So when I left Minolta, I was there 19 years, and I helped them, really grow the
Yeah.
distribution. I think when I started there, we were doing about 150 million, and when I left there, we were doing literally hundreds and hundreds of millions.
Wow.
So so I kind of got tapped out. I hit the ceiling at Minolta, and then Rico had approached me, and ironically enough, they had asked me to. They had just acquired Savin, and
Yes.
they needed a president to run the Savin thing. And when I got there, I accepted the job and all the normal stuff I went through. And then when I got there, the first day, I got contacted by the then president of Rico, and he said, "I have a little bit of a issue."
Yeah.
And I and I'm like, well, what I'm thinking, well, what did I do? I said, what did I do? So he says, well, we've decided that we're going to give Jim Ivey the
Yeah.
president of Savin, and we need you to run the Rico operation.
Mm.
So I was like, well, okay,
Yeah. A little bit different.
that's a little oops. So
Yeah.
anyway, I worked my way through that, and I had a great 5 year run there. It was terrific, 5 6 years. It was really really wonderful. And
So
and then
that's
from
where our paths crossed, Mike.
yes,
And
yeah,
yeah, so I love that how we met, and of course, I'm just an up and down the street guy, so you don't remember me, but man, oh man, I think you shared the story on our podcast, on your show. I can't remember, but if you could share that meeting in Detroit, if as much as you remember, and I'll fill it in because it was just I couldn't believe it, how it went down. Do you remember that, Mike?
yeah, I do. I'm kind of curious. I'm kind of curious. See, I'm always kind of curious how you saw it. So I was pretty new at Rico at that point,
Yeah,
and there were some challenges right up there, to say the
yeah,
least.
yeah,
So yeah, so here I am, relatively new to Rico, relatively new to these personalities and people, and of course, the guys were great. You guys were great. Had a good time. But clearly there was some work to be done there, and I was kind of the tip of the spear. But the thing I remember the most was, clearly there were some fun people there. There were some characters there. I had to
Yeah.
be very careful. And when when an Italian guy says to another Italian guy, "I'm going to take you out for a great Italian meal," that could go two ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
Olive Garden wasn't my favorite then or now.
yeah. So
So who was that? Who was that? Can we
I'll
say
fill
his
in the
name?
dot.
Okay.
So here's the thing. Nicosia says because when Rico first wanted to get into the direct business, their first foray, they went out and bought 4 dealers,
Yeah.
and because at that time, Danka was coming around in the southeast. Um, uh, Icon, although it wasn't, it had just been called Icon, but it was, primary Elko Capital, and so from their sense, the tail was starting to wag the dog because
Yeah.
the distribution started to become so big, it was dictating to the manufacturer. So they initially said, "Hey, let's go do the same. It works. We can see it." So they bought these 4 dealers, and they found out real quick they couldn't run dealerships. And I worked for Tom Nicosia, who was the dealer in Detroit, right? And so, one of the jokes in the dealer community is that, Tom was Italian and virtually everybody in Rico was Italian. So Tom's like, man, the president's coming in. We got to show him the best. We got to, this, that, and everybody's all getting pumped up. And he says, we're going to go out. We're going to have a grand dinner. We're going to have awards, celebrate. So he
So Tom
takes
takes
this.
him. I'm flabbergasted. Tom's the one that said go to Olive Garden.
It wasn't even an Olive Garden. And Mike, you're not even going to remember this thing. It wasn't that good. It was this place off of 75 and 14 Mile. And they used to advertise the $4.99 all you can eat bowl of spaghetti. And you got a salad bar with it. And we're all sitting in there and we're looking at Tom going, Tom, I mean, you got an Italian guy coming in. This is,
So
and he's
I didn't want to go too deep into that story, but suffice it to say, there were a number of local places to go entertain yourself, if I could
yeah,
put it that way, right?
yeah,
So I know some of the guys were working on that. They wanted to get out of do the dinner, get out and do whatever. But the funniest thing, he didn't want much. He didn't want me there, right? I mean, it was like, this is my dealership. I know I sold it. I don't care.
yeah,
I'm going to run this thing. Who are you? Go
right.
away. And by the way, here's a hamburger on your way out the door, right?
Yeah.
So
So yeah,
it was fun, but I remember coming back to the office and a couple of the Japanese guys asked me, "Well, how did the meeting go?" And I said, "Well, he appreciates your money, but he thinks it's his business." So,
yeah,
but that was the way they were back then, and
yeah,
still today. I mean, they still do.
right.
So Tom took a $1,200 receipt that he paid dinner for, and then turned it in for probably about 2,500 to the
Yeah,
Japanese there. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
so. Yeah, he
yeah.
definitely didn't want you. He's better than that. I can't believe. I can't wait to see Tom and talk about this. I didn't know this.
yeah. It
Well,
was called
we had fun.
Marinelli's.
We had
Marinelli's.
fun.
All
Yeah,
you can eat bowl of spaghetti for $4.99 and salad bar. It was bad. But anyway, so that's when our paths crossed, and
yeah.
and then from there you've gone entrepreneurial and Stramaglio Consulting and a lot of good things. So
Well,
share with us some of the highlights that you had.
yeah, it. So Minolta was phenomenal. 19 years. I mean,
Yeah.
Sam Kozumoto, Japanese guys were unbelievably gracious and professional with me. They taught me. I was the youngest vice president appointed at Minolta, so I'm very proud of that one. I was 36
Hmm.
years old. I was the first vice president they appointed, and I remember Sam Kozumoto coming up to me, and and beautiful guy,
Yeah.
and he called me in his office, and he said, "I know I shouldn't be saying this to you, but don't f it up." And I never heard a Japanese guy use that word before.
Yeah. Right.
So I was more stunned with that. And I said, I'm not going to screw it up. But he put me on my path, and again, the people around me were awesome. I went to Rico, had a bigger responsibility at Rico. At Minolta, I had pretty much sales, marketing, service, everything except P&L. And then at
Mm-hmm.
Rico, I picked up P&L. And then from there, I actually went to Hitachi, where
Mm-hmm. Oh,
that
okay.
that yeah, and that was probably the most monumental,
Mm-hmm.
accelerated education, worldwide, full P&L responsibility, responsible for engineers around the world, offices from Tokyo to Sydney.
Wow.
So it was truly gave me the footing, and the appetite for growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed that role, and then that's when I at the end of that role, I actually, unfortunately, they found what they call an acoustic neuroma in my brain,
Mm.
and so there was a what they call non-malignant, of course, tumor that was growing, and it wraps around your brainstem, and if they
Mm.
don't catch it, it'll kill you, right?
Right. Mm.
So I happened to be in a car with my wife driving from um, LA to Phoenix, where my parents had retired. And we got rear ended and I got knocked out, and they found it. They
Wow.
found this thing. So I had to take a little bit of time off and, get that all squared away. That took a little bit of time. And during that, this is again the beauty of this industry. So I had to take a leave. I didn't know if I was coming back. So anyway, my buddies over at EFI, they knew I was having a little difficulty, and they called me up.
Mhm.
They said, "Hey, look, we want to put you on contract. We understand the situation, but if you can, we'd like you to come back and work for us if you can." So
Really?
I said, "Hey guys, having a job right now is not exactly what I'm really thinking about, but okay." So anyway, I negotiated with them, had a wonderful contract. I came back. I worked for them for 1 year or so.
Mm-hmm.
We acquired the company that's in Phoenix, and that's ultimately what I took. I did the buyout from EFI, started the company, and that was the next 16 years.
That's an
So,
awesome story. Yeah, I wasn't aware of the health issue there, Mike. In hindsight, then that car accident was actually a very good thing.
well, it saved my life. I
Yeah.
mean, I, by the time we would have found it, it would have been too late.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Providence.
So, true story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is a great, and I appreciate you sharing all this with us because it's wonderful history, and we know why you're such a big ambassador for the business, but the industry. But so I reconnected with you at ECS last year,
Yes.
and I got a bit of it as my first exposure because I'd been working in the direct channel for a long time. So it's really my first, and I thank Kevin for letting me come out and visit because it was an exposure into the dealer community that I truly was ignorant of. Just by virtue of being in the direct channel for so many decades. But
Being
but I
institutionalized.
yeah, I was institutionalized, right? Um, so I got a sense there was some history with ECS, and then COVID came along, or can you just share with you how you came up with that idea and what it's all about and where you see it going?
Well, yeah, at MWA, so when we started MWA or bought it out of EFI, um, I realized that there was an absolute need for greater inroads into technology and peeks at what's coming. So classically, all of us, including myself,
Mhm,
what do? We go to the Canon shows, we go to the Konica Minolta shows, we go to the Sharp
mhm,
shows. Occasionally, you might go to this event or a CDA event or something like that, but there wasn't a skunk room. There wasn't a think tank. There wasn't a
mhm.
place to go that was agnostic without any demands, meaning, hey, Kevin, Les, if you belong to part of this group, you get a quota with it. You got to buy $5,000 worth of software. So I didn't want that. We needed to learn. We needed to
Mhm.
find partners that were going to be able to literally partner. So somebody
Right.
calls, one of our consortium members, or back then one of the other members would call you up and say, "Hey, Kevin, I need you to take a look at this product. Tell me, just tell me, is it good, bad? Are they headed in the right direction?" And we would vet it. We would vet the company, vet the product. And so we did that as MWA, I think for about 6, 7 years. Then we sold the company to Konica Minolta. They didn't want to do that anymore. They do their own corporate thing. And then COVID hit, and my contract pretty much was up at the end, when COVID started to hit pretty good. So I had a transition contract. I took it. We had a lot of fun. They were great to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then my plan literally was to go to Italy for a while and visit family and friends,
Very
and,
nice.
and just enjoy that part of retirement. Well, that wasn't possible. So I started getting some, calls from friends in the business and people. Hey, can you help me with this project? Can you help me with that? And all of a sudden, it became a thing. Like, okay, I actually have to pay attention to this, and
Right.
work with people and deliver. So that's when I started Stramaglio Consulting. That led to the consortium, which we have 47 developers, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
process companies, training companies, and so on, innovation companies. And then we have 17 dealers basically on the other side, and we're constantly managing it. Well, last year, people were coming back to me and saying, "Hey, Mike, why don't you just, you should do the Executive Connection Summit again."
Yeah.
And I did. I said, "You know what? That's a really good idea. Let's see what happens."
Right.
And so, unfortunately, we had only 90 days, to pull it all together, and we were scared to death because of COVID. And I didn't know who was going to come, and we ended up with close to 200, I think, 58 people, literally.
Wow.
And yeah,
Yeah, the
and
turnout
this
was great, I thought.
Yeah.
turnout was phenomenal. I mean, it was a jailbreak too. People wanted to get in front of people. But the concept was good. People enjoyed it, and people created business. I mean,
Yeah.
they literally did. So that's why we're doing it again.
Perfect.
So
Now,
I'm hoping here to me. I'm jumping in less, but I remember from last year with Tim Linsemeyer from Clover. I'd love to see us take what he's doing over there and work with Microsoft and the AI stuff and see if we could advance that more. I think that's something that would be great for our industry and great for everybody to expand on that.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because we've continued those discussions and negotiations, and you're going to see some fun stuff at ECS.
Good.
With that whole relationship, really, really, really cool stuff.
we had a gentleman in the office just a week ago, right, Kevin? And and he's does a lot of philanthropy in and around Ann Arbor. And Kevin showed him that video, and Kevin showed that video to many people, over the past year. And and this guy's got interest, and Kevin's like, man, we gotta locally connect with these people. And so we're trying to do our bit, and we look for your guidance, in your organization on that. But we have people here locally that are interested.
Well, we're going to keep it going, and with a couple of these companies, and I have to be careful because they're not releasing the information until the end of August,
Yeah.
September. But a couple of these companies actually will be bringing nice bundles of packages, and they're going to be asking you either before or during the summit, and we're going to help facilitate it. But they're looking for pilot dealers, right? Hey,
Hmm.
Kevin, we'll fund X, Y, and Z. We need your help, right,
Hmm.
Yeah.
to vet this thing out. So it's a highly collaborative, and I'm not a big fan of using the word actionable, but it's actionable, right?
Good.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it going, Kevin.
So you want to take from the theory, to reality is what you're trying to bridge. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
That's
what
awesome.
we're doing.
Yeah, we like
Yeah.
that. That's one of the best hallmarks of our business because you can do all you know uh, search engine optimization, social media, but at the end of the day, we're in the street, we're knocking on doors, meeting with businesses, and making commerce, happen right at the root level. And which brings you right back to the beginning of the call when you were carrying a bag. That's how you started out, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're all carrying a bag. I mean, it's virtual, right, at this point. But I
Kevin,
mean,
what do you got in your hand? What do you got down there? Was
Well, I'm
you
just
pulling
moving
out?
in. I'm looking at the time here. I'm just thinking, it's just starting to show a little angel envy.
So hey,
it's a
hey,
little
Mike.
early for me.
Yeah, it's the theme of our show. It does float around bourbon, and we usually wrap up every show by asking our guests, what is your favorite bourbon?
Well, I'm probably not the best person to ask. I love Bullet, so
What?
I'm just I
Pretty
like
darn
Bullet.
good.
What's ever pushed in front of him, it's free,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much. Well, I'm more of a martini guy, but
You're
you got to have
right,
bourbon
right?
with a cigar.
That's right.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, Bullet's pretty darn respectable. I mean, if you
Yeah.
said Kessler's, we would have had to maybe rethink. Or have you ever seen
Well,
Kessler?
yeah. Well, I run into Mark Hart, right, over at ACDI. I mean, he
Hmm.
is Mr.
Yeah,
Bourbon.
right.
So I can't even talk to him because he just looks at me like, Bullet, Bullet. Yes, I
Yeah.
saw the movie. I saw the movie.
Well, those guys are from Little Rock, right? In that area,
Yeah.
Little Rock, Arkansas. So they're in that whole area of where that all started. That whole movie. Is he going to be there in January?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Hey,
We're,
real
And
we've got a
quickly, let's
we've got a
let's
great
shout out the
crowd.
dates for that. Yeah, and is there
yeah,
anything you want to talk about that before, any other? I see announcements coming out all the time for some of our presenting sponsors, and that's great stuff that they're doing and stepping
Yeah.
up. But what are the
Yeah.
dates of that again?
15th through the 18th of January, and just go to executiveconnectionsummit.com and you can
hmm
see all the speakers and register right there. And there is an early bird discount, so I should tell people that too if you do it now. But it's gonna be fun. We've opened it up to more discussion,
hmm
so fewer, rat-a-tat-tat presentations, more, all right, here's a presentation. One is going to be directed towards, motivational or inspirational. The others are very technical to the extent that here's what Intel's doing. And then we're opening it up. We're going to have some panels that are run by dealers or industry people. We have some extraordinary technology people who are outside of our industry,
hmm
but on the same page with us. Financial people, the Doyles will be there. The private equity people will be there. The smaller dealers will be there. So it's going to be a really, really, really excellent, I think,
Plus, we're
probably.
going to be there. I mean, that alone should be
He
the
said that.
draw.
He said the smaller dealers will be there, so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
well
yeah,
represented.
yeah.
I just
Hey,
wish those LFG guys would have a little enthusiasm when they speak.
Well, the nice part about, I got to tell you, the nice part for me this year, as opposed to last year, is that the success of last year have encouraged people to call us.
yeah.
So some of the OEMs are last year they kind of rejected the notion,
hmm
and now they're actually calling us. So I think that's a really positive sign for the industry.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
Mike,
by the way, Les, I got to tell you this. So my son and my daughter. So this kind of a really interesting way to probably close it out. But my son and my daughter both went to work for copy machine companies, right?
yeah,
So I want you to think about this. The last thing in the world, I want him to be a doctor or a lawyer, or, go do a brain surgery. Jenna, go do whatever you're going to do. I never, ever encourage them to get in the industry. Well, my son graduates first. He goes to work for Rico. He's
yeah.
crushing. Jenna graduates from ASU. Same thing. She goes to work for Global in Chicago. And so we're at Thanksgiving, and I said, the copy machine business, guys, really? And my Jenna says to me, well, Dad, you always told us if you can sell copy machines, you can
hmm
do anything. And I
Right.
told them both, I said, you know what? I told you a million stupid things. That's the one that you grab onto. So,
You got Grant over here in tears. I can see him through the window here, the broadcast window, and he's laughing about the other week the little after discussions and Mike going down those stories. He's thinking, "Oh no, not again."
Oh my God, it's fun. I mean, those are fun stories, and of course, it served them well. They're doing really, really well. So,
Yeah,
Well,
and then
again, kudos to you because we don't see, there's a lot of people in this business that have their kids in the business and they just haven't done as well, and they both really risen to the occasion and done
well, they're
great
great
for
kids.
themselves.
yeah.
My son says to me, "Dad, how did you cold call, man? That had to suck, right? Back in the day, that had to, quote unquote, that had to suck." I said, "Actually, Mike, it was the first dating app."
Oh,
So
right.
it's all about perspective, right? You're young,
Yeah,
single. What better way to meet people?
right.
So,
One of the things in our business, most of the guys all married up. I know I did. I know
yeah.
Kevin did. That's for sure. I haven't met your wife, but I can tell you, me and Kevin closed the notch up.
We learned to
Well,
sell, right?
Yeah.
hey, you work hard, you play hard. That's how you got here. That's why
Yes,
you're
sir.
here.
All right. Well, hey, Kev, you got anything you want to wrap up with? We know Mike's favorite bourbon is Bullet.
I'm just looking, just laughing about our outtakes from the other day. So, no, these stories are probably best left off Mike, I think. So, no, I appreciate Mike. All you've done, you've been a great leader in our industry, and I think that we're all better for it. And I think the ECS is exciting stuff, and we're looking forward to coming back again here January 23. And I think that I appreciate your friendship and your mentorship for all of us, and
Yeah.
continue to do what you're doing. You're a leader.
Appreciate.
Well, I'm very grateful for your kind comments. It's been wonderful to be with you. You guys have a great weekend. If I don't see you face to face, I'll see you at
Yeah.
ECS.
I was gonna say for a guy who doesn't want to be on stage, man, he sure was elbowing out Rick Taylor last year to make sure he got front and center, wasn't he?
Actually, hey, Kevin, the thing is, on that last day of stage with Mike, at the very last day, right? Now, just a few minutes ago, he said, I promise you that this thing's going to be fun with a lot of discussion. Well, the night before, the last day,
There
they
was a
were
lot of
having a lot
discussion.
of fun in that parking lot and they were having a lot of discussion.
My God, do you remember that?
Yeah, well, a few
Wow.
of us do, a few of us don't.
And you know what? Those were probably some of the best conversations we had the whole week. I mean, they were fun. But anyway, guys, I thank you
Thanks.
so much. Appreciate it. And you guys have a great weekend.
You
You
too.
got it. We'll see you, Mike.